Hello and welcome to Growth Layer, an interview series that pulls back the curtain on what it really takes to build in health and family. The wins, the pivots, the trade-offs, the behind-the-scenes decisions that shape the journey. And today I'm really thrilled and I'm excited to have on the show Dr. Amy Divaraniya, the founder and CEO of OOVA, a hormone health startup with lab-grade at-home testing driven by AI-powered insights. And with a decade of experience as a data scientist specializing in genomics and biomarker discovery, she brings a rare blend of scientific expertise and personal mission to her work. After facing her own fertility challenges, Dr. Divaraniya left her career in precision medicine to create the solution she wished existed. So Amy, welcome, and I'm excited to dive in.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, that's a pretty hefty intro.
Well, let's start off with the origin and the birth story of OOVA. What's like your personal story? What has inspired you to birth a company that's so mission driven and also tied to overcoming and solving problems and challenges in your own personal journey and story?
Yeah, like many female founders, I think, especially in the healthcare space, like there's a problem that we were solving for ourselves and realized it wasn't just us. So at the end of my PhD, my husband and I started trying to have a baby, and it wasn't happening for us. We were doing everything right. I was peeing on everything. I took my temperature every morning. But I realized that all the tools that I was using were really designed for women who had a perfect 28-day cycle. And if you were like me and you had irregular cycles, you didn't really have many options outside of chance or invasive treatment. And then a little bit further back in my journey, I had actually been misdiagnosed with polycystic ovarian syndrome a couple of times. And so I didn't want to pursue the invasive route, mostly because I didn't want a doctor to tell me how or when I could get pregnant. We both were on the page of if we didn't conceive naturally, then it just wasn't in our cards. And so, like I said, we did everything right, but nothing really prepared us for this like incredibly dark and heartbreaking journey that we embarked on. It was very lonely, and it was just like month after month, the devastation hit a bit harder every time you got that negative pregnancy test. I was like in this really dark spot, but the one shining light was, okay, let's be a detective. Like, what is my data saying? Let's go into all of this data. Let's look at these notebooks of information you've captured, see where the needles are in this haystack that you're kind of creating. And what I realized is there really wasn't a needle. There's a lot of like random stats that are like, I mean, how much value can you get out of a circle?
Yeah.
A digital circle. I wasn't getting a smiley face. I wasn't getting, it never blinked. Like it just, there's really little insight you can draw from something as simple as just a circle. The more I dug into it, like, well, what I really need is my hormone levels. And then it's like peeling an onion. You realize that it's like, okay, let's get that data. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't just help you with fertility. It actually scales into every area of women's health, because pretty much everything in women's health is subjective. You're put on a pain scale of 0 to 10 for any symptom that you're reporting. And I could not believe that that was the standard of care. So outside of just the hormone data, I wanted to really bring objectivity into women's health. So when a patient walks into her doctor's office, we're able to enable this two-way conversation. And that was the, I guess, foundation for OOVA. And so we set out to build a hormone testing platform that monitored multiple hormones through urine with clinical accuracy, tracked that data over time, and learned what every woman's unique hormone profile is. While we started fertility, we really help women navigate various phases of life. Fertility, obviously, perimenopause, and then really everything in between, because our lives are driven by hormones.
Yeah. Did you have to overcome any internal blocks or shifts to become a founder? Because there is a lived experience and you're solving for the problem. And then taking on the journey of being a founder is a whole other path. So I'm kind of curious like how that was for you and what you had to navigate to make that leap, or maybe for you, it was just such a natural evolution.
No, it was not. Because I didn't really know what I was doing. Like, let's be honest, I'm a scientist, right? Like, I have never started a company. I didn't come from the entrepreneurial network, so I didn't have like a Rolodex of investors and founders to tap into to be like, have this idea, should I do it? It wasn't anything like that. But really what I think happened is because I was in this like really dark place in my own fertility journey, I needed to find light somewhere. So I kind of redirected my struggles into something positive, which was like, okay, how do I think of a solution? Let's try to come up with what would solve this for other women.
Yeah.
So I kind of channeled all my energy into that instead of solely my second full-time job, which was becoming a mom. And what that enabled me to do was actually become pregnant. And I did get pregnant. But I think some of the challenges actually were tied to that. right? Now, okay, here we are. I started this company because I couldn't get pregnant.
Yeah.
Now I am pregnant and I'm not a serial founder. I don't have an exit. I don't have investors to go to, but I'm going to go and try to raise some money to make this idea become reality. All of a sudden, I'm finding out that being pregnant is actually a liability in my case because I don't have a track record to fall back on. And so why would an investor put money into you if that's a liability? I think times have changed. I'm talking back in 2017, 2018. Yeah. So I think times have definitely changed, which is so positive to see. But that was a really weird meeting segment I went through because I was being told and advised by other founders, no one has seen, these investors haven't met you yet, mind you, pre-COVID. So you're still doing in-person meetings. Mm-hmm. They don't know what you look like. Wear loose clothing. You can't tell you're pregnant. Just don't disclose it yet.
Wow.
And so I could not get to terms with that in my head. So I was like, screw it. I'm just going to raise some friends and family money from people who believe in me. And I'm going to get a proof of concept and then let's have a baby and let's see what happens. Let's just keep kind of going with it. So I pulled that round. We were actually going to go out for a formal round and we didn't do it because of that. And so there's just a lot of moments like that throughout my journey where my lived experience was very different than what you would expect it to be. And what's kind of painted as truth in media. It's actually very different when you start lifting that hood.
Yeah. Wow. That's a very honest share. Thank you. So I'm curious, what kept you staying on track along the way? Because it's easy to see as a first-time founder getting discouraged with that. And it sounded like at every inflection point, you've figured out a way to keep going. So, in this case, raising money from friends and family and not letting that dialogue or that narrative stop you. And so was there some type of innermost conviction that was keeping you forward? Was there support structure, combination? I'm curious because that's a lot to be moving through the entire time.
I mean, I could tell you that I had such deep conviction for my idea. I knew I was going to change the world. And so I had to keep going. No.
Okay.
And I think honestly, if anyone says that their conviction is what kept them going day after day, they are sugarcoating the truth. Because yes, of course, you need to truly believe that you're solving a problem. Yes, you need to have enough conviction that you are going to uproot your entire life plan to do this and pursue it, right? This is not how I expect my life to be after my PhD, but here we are. I think what really kept me going, and this has continued, because they say that starting a company is a roller coaster ride. Yeah. It's the biggest understatement because I hate that free fall feeling. The number of times I've free falled and not been able to get back up right away is insane. So this roller coaster is quite steep and the highs are not as high as the lows for sure. So it's an insane ride that we're on. So you need to have something that's consistently supporting you and building you back up. Yeah. And I think I've done there's three things that have really kept me going. One, yes, I do believe that we're changing lives. And initially it was my conviction that was pushing me forward. What it is now is that conviction gets reinforced through user stories and our customers telling me that hey, I got to cancel my subscription. OOVA worked for me. I got the data I needed. I'm pregnant with my third child. That's the conviction now. So it's changed shape slightly. Yeah. The second piece is I have always aimed to surround myself with people that are smarter than me, more experienced than me, and know a lot more than me. Because if I had to solely rely on the data that was sitting in front of me, I should have closed shop 20, 30 times already. You need someone around you who can see beyond the physical data points and understand the potential. Yeah. Even because sometimes it's hard for you to see it yourself. Yeah. And so my advisors, my investors, my colleagues are all the ones that really push me because they're okay, things seem tough right now. I know that deal didn't close. I know you were really banking on it, but look at this other opportunity that is coming because you went that far here. And sometimes you need a third party to kind of point that out to you.
Yeah, I get that.
The third pillar for me is really my team. They have been such a rock for me personally going through this because I'm a very collaborative leader. There's pros and cons to that, but I also like to be transparent. Right? Again, pros and cons to that. But I think that this is not my company. It is our company. And so I don't like to lead with dictatorship. I want it to be a combined decision that we're going to move forward here because everyone brings a different perspective. I'll bring the North Star. I'll bring the vision.
Yes.
How do we all band together to get to that North Star as effectively and efficiently as possible? And so my team is really ideal in helping us achieve that. And I think like the future of OOVA is just so bright because of those three components.
I love that, and so well summarized, especially with a topic that has, quite a few like layers and nuances to it. Well, then I guess maybe kind of circling back to your background as a scientist, like how did that influence developing the product? Did that make that path easier, even if you were figuring things out? And then let's talk about OOVA's differentiation. I mean, you've mentioned success. I certainly follow OOVA as a company and follow you as a founder, and I see the successes that are shared. I think it would be interesting for the listener to unpack that a bit. Your differentiations, your background as a scientist, and the success and the lives that you've changed.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think they kind of all tie together. So I think my background is really embedded in the DNA of the company. So being a data scientist, we put so much emphasis on accuracy, clinical grade, and getting women objective numbers. You are not going to get a high, low, or blinking anything in our platform. You are going to get a number that goes out to 2 decimal places and is like personalized to you. And then we contextualize it for you. So I think that's like a huge differentiator for us because we're not comparing you to a norm. In fact, we just released a feature that is women like me. So going through a journey, whether it's perimenopause, fertility, hormone imbalance, whatever it is, very lonely because often you feel dismissed by your doctor. You don't know who to go to. Your friends may or may not get it. Your mom will most likely not get it. Yes. So it's just like you're really alone and you don't know who to go to for support, and your traditional support channels may not always be the right ones. So what we launched is this concept, okay, this is your data, this is who you are, but you're not the only one. There are thousands of other women that are like you, and this is what they're reporting, this is what they're tracking, this is what they're experiencing. Now you're part of a subsegment. And that all of a sudden makes you feel, the feedback we've gotten, I shouldn't speak for women, but the feedback we've gotten is that it's normalizing the abnormal. Yeah. And that's always been our goal. We want to embrace that abnormality because that is the true norm of the female population. We're not 28-day folks. Yeah. We have variations. We have stress. We have like imbalances that hit us. We have reproductive disorders. Like these are not negative things. These are things that we need to embrace, understand, and then take into our own hands. So we're in control of our health journey. So I think that my background in being a scientist and mostly in data has really fed into what the offerings are that we provide the end user. On the flip side, I think it hurts us at times too, because I won't sign up to do some of this like flashy marketing campaigns with like lies and use us for 3 cycles and you're going to get pregnant. Like, no, that might not happen. Okay. There's no pregnancy guarantee with OOVA. Right. There's no answer guarantee. Because there might not be one. And I'm not going to lie to you and say, use this for 3 months and you'll get what you want. That's not true. So in a way, I think us being so stringent with our standards could hurt us because they don't allow us to kind of go into the typical marketing ploys and sales tactics.
I'm curious, actually, on that note, has a team or have you publicly shared success ranges or outcomes, like what's most common, even if you're not guaranteeing, which I love because we're already in. I mean, I've certainly gone through my fertility challenges and I wish I was aware of OOVA at that time, but we're already in such a sensitive state. We're already battling our own emotional ups and downs. And so like, what are the average common successful outcomes, even if they're outliers, and then for us to feel normalized in the process?
To me, a pregnancy is not considered success. Like finding out that you are in perimenopause is not a success. Yeah. To me, success is measured by a woman using our platform, coming to us with a question or some sort of discomfort, and walking away with an answer or a treatment plan. Right. So for that, we have an incredibly high success rate. I mean, that's like pretty much every user that's coming through our platform, right? But what's really exciting for us is that one of our most prominent, I'm sure you see this across brands, one of our most prominent sales tactics is word of mouth. Yeah. Right. And if a woman has success and achieves whatever she's trying to do with your platform, she's going to talk about it. I don't need to incentivize her to do that. I don't need to make her an affiliate or like give her a referral code or anything. She's going to scream it from the rooftops. And that's what's been happening. Right. So we have a lot of women that write reviews for us. Great. We'll publicize those. but really it's the word of mouth that's been invaluable for us.
Got it. Well, actually, that's perfect because I was going to, that kind of leads into the next point of this conversation in terms of how are your customers finding you? I mean, also just the evolution of your product line, because you started with fertility, you added perimenopause. I'm just curious, like what the breakdown is between the market needs, right? Because there is a lot of competition in the fertility space. So yeah, so how are customers finding you and breakdown or demand between the two key products?
Maybe we start with the second question first, because that'll inform the first one. Yes, we started with fertility. As I said earlier, like my vision was never to be a fertility company or just support that one journey. We really wanted to scale across all segments of women's lives, because women's health is not just having a baby.
Yes.
We evolve from our first period to last and beyond, and our hormones are dictating that entire transition. So if we can understand that transition and translate that data, you know exactly what's going on, right? And you can navigate that. What started happening is, even though we started with the fertility user journey, what we started seeing is that 46% of our users were above the age of 35. And many of those users were telling us that they were in perimenopause. But when you look at their hormone data, their cycles were irregular. And then when you drill even more, their cycles have always been irregular. But they were getting this blanket diagnosis because of their age and because of the cycle irregularity. So I was like, there has to be something here. Like this is ridiculous. Can we tease out if a woman is truly in perimenopause or not? And so we added a third hormone to our panel, which was estrogen. And just last year, we launched a perimenopause experience. That has since completely taken off. Like it was kind of a wake-up call to me as well, because when I did my projections, I was like, okay, like assume something similar to fertility, and like there'll be a ramp up. We'll get these features in as like we get more users so we can build out our models. I launch it. I left for India 48 hours later for a family trip. And 2 days into that trip, I'm seeing Slack messages. Should we tell Amy that we're out of stock? I'm like, you guys, I'm monitoring everything. We sold out of 6 weeks of inventory in less than 6 days.
Wow.
And so I'm like, okay, like all hands on deck. Let's get some kits out. Like let's figure this thing out. And so we upped our manufacturing. We like really did what we needed to do to get inventory out. We sold out 3 more times within the calendar year.
Wow. My goodness.
Yeah. And despite raising the bar of manufacturing. So it just speaks to the demand. The women were so hungry for answers, right? And also keep in mind, this is very limited marketing. So now if you look at our user base, it is predominantly perimenopause. The breakdown is substantially perimenopause, less fertility. But there's a big driver to that too. Yes, there's more women going through perimenopause than actively trying to get pregnant. That's not our reasoning. We actually pulled all of our spend, Meta and Google, away from fertility and put it towards perimenopause, because what we were realizing is that for fertility, it's incredibly expensive, as I'm sure you know, Destiny, very competitive, and there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Yes.
And so we didn't want to battle that. I'm like, women are so smart. They are finding us organically. We actually saw that when we pulled the spend from fertility, our fertility numbers did not drop.
Interesting. Okay.
So what that meant is that our paid channels were just not working for us when it came to fertility. Our organic was substantially higher. So I'm like, fine, just build out organic and let that be the long tail win here. That's what you're always striving for anyway. We got that with fertility. Let that keep going. Like that's kind of how our marketing is broken down now. We spend mostly on perimenopause. And the reason that that's winning is because we're also truly differentiated here. There's no other solution that's providing the value and the insights that OOVA is able to provide, because the models that we've created are no longer, actually for perimenopause, have never been based on publicly available data sets because they don't exist.
Right, exactly.
They're all based on our data. So that's super proprietary. And our model now is, I think, based on over 30,000 cycles, and it's incredibly valuable.
Now, the first couple of cycles when you sold out the perimenopause kits unexpectedly, were they being sold to existing customers or all new customers, or a mix of both? I'm curious.
It's a mix of both. Because we had women that had conceived with us that were now graduating into this perimenopause experience. Got it. It was really interesting to see the dynamics there. I truly did not, it like showed right there that like I've never done projections before.
So I guess in terms of subscription, how long are your customers sticking around? Are you having to put big focus on retention, or is there just a natural stickiness and retention that's built in? It just sounds like there's so much organically built in here.
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's hard to give you a solid answer because every woman is using OOVA so differently. It really depends the journey that she's on, and that dictates how long she will be with OOVA. I will say the data is really sticky. I know no one likes to pee on the stick every day, but the value that you get You're peeing anyway. You might as well make that liquid gold, right? So for real. And so that's the mindset that a lot of people have. And it varies based on the use case. But what we're seeing is that we're getting even more adoption on the clinical side. So they're embedding OOVA into deeper protocols, which keeps the patient in there a bit longer. So it's really hard for me to answer that question because we have an LTV for our B2B clients and an LTV direct to consumer. And yes, they are different, but even within the direct to consumer side, it so depends on what segment they're a part of.
That makes sense. And the different segments are segments defined within perimenopause or segments across perimenopause, fertility?
We have individual journeys for both use cases. So like think of this as a hierarchy. You have a health journey, which is at the moment trying to conceive in perimenopause. Under that, there's sub journeys.
Got it.
And so even within those sub journeys, you can have different LTVs.
Got it. I think we're in sync because every time you lead into the next topic, I was about to ask about the B2B adoption versus direct to consumer. And so that actually leads me to the next point is, is the B2B growing? Is the majority of your business still direct to consumer, mixed of both? Because I can see there being strong adoption across both channels for your products.
Yeah, it is a mixture of both. We have direct to consumer running because I believe every woman should have access to this data, and it's honestly a great awareness tool. And so that will always be there. But now how much of our energy and emphasis goes into direct to consumer versus B2B, that is always fluctuating. And so B2B, it's been a really interesting journey because just like quick backstory on OOVA, I thought the goal has always been to be clinically used. Right? What I did not want is that a patient would use OOVA, go to her doctor, take all this data, doctor flips through and it's like, great, thanks, and then moves on to their normal protocol. I wanted them to use the data to say, like, what do we do next? Right? So in my eyes, I'm like, okay, we need to do clinical trials to make sure that the data is validated, that clinicians can trust this information, is it in a way that they know how to read it, and so on. So it took us 3 years to develop the tech. And in those 3 years, I talked to every doctor that would give me the time of day and asking those questions, like, how would you want to see it? What do you need from me to make you trust this? So on. Well, obviously we had to do a clinical trial. So we did some inventory. I learned in my first year of business that Chinese New Year is a thing. And if you're manufacturing anything in China, everything shuts down for 2 months. You have to get all of your requests in like months, like by the end of November. And even that's too late. Right. So we actually had like our plastic cartridges and our box being manufactured in China. All the chemistry has always been stateside, but like those components that you need to like actually run the test were being done out in China. So I placed an order. I'm like, we're going to do a clinical trial in 2020. Let's just get the inventory and we'll hit go and get it. We got our inventory at the end of February of 2020. Sure. Clinical trial was supposed to start March 2020. Well, New York City shut down. Thanks to COVID.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm like, okay, great. Now what do we do? And so we had this opportunity where, like, I guess one step back again, one of the areas that was heavily hit at that moment was fertility care. Because it was viewed as an elective procedure. Yeah. Right. And so you had all these families that were being told, sorry, your treatment is being postponed indefinitely. Yeah. And it left both clinicians and patients in this like weird limbo state. So because I had talked to so many clinicians over those 3 years, one of them reached out and was like, Amy, do you have any samples available? I was like, yeah, I do. We're going to do this trial. I do have some samples. And she's like, send me some. I'm going to have my patient use it. And so I was like, great. How are you going to view the data? How is this going to work? Because like, yeah, you could scan it with your phone, but how are you as a doctor going to view it? And so within 2 weeks, we spun up a HIPAA-compliant clinician dashboard. Luckily for us, the entire system was HIPAA-compliant from day one. I did my PhD looking at EHR records. And so when you build a database, it just is HIPAA-compliant. So we didn't think anything of it. It just became a requirement. And so if you remember early COVID, Instagram Live was like the thing that everyone did.
Yes.
Right. I'm sitting at home one night, I'm feeding my son, and I get tagged on Instagram. And what it is that doctor that we sent the initial kits out to had done an Instagram Live talking about OOVA and saying how amazing this was that she could continue monitoring her patients, even though she couldn't like touch the patient, and tagged us. Within 24 hours, my inbox was flooded. What is this? I need this yesterday. And so we launched B2B first. Okay. And then 9 months later, we launched direct to consumer. So it flipped my business model on its head, which was exciting. But since then, now launching perimenopause, it's again shifted a bit, because I thought, again, we'll have to do direct to consumer. Turns out it's kind of like a 50-50 split right now with B2B and direct to consumer for perimenopause. Okay. Because you have a lot of clinicians that don't know how to treat perimenopause, and they're looking for answers.
That's right.
And so we're able to provide that now.
Wow. I love hearing that split, because you're right. It's like I've gone through my challenges of getting access, even being in big cities, and getting the frustration around data and not having all the insights that I'm looking for. So I love hearing that it's 50-50.
Yeah, it's, again, dependent on the use case that you're going after. But what is becoming really clear is that clinicians and patients need very similar data, just displayed in slightly different ways.
Yeah, I get that. Well, maybe before we kind of go into what's next, I mean, you've been sharing so much of your vision embedded in, but in terms of what's next, the next chapter of OOVA, something that I've always found interesting. So you shared your story, first-time founder, what's kind of kept you on track. I'm curious if there's been any childhood influences that you're aware of that has also contributed to you being on this path as an entrepreneur or as a founder. And then I want to talk about like what's next, and of course any new exciting chapters in store.
It's an interesting question. I've never actually been asked that before.
And if not, that's great too. But
I'm there is, and I'm like, now that like you asked that question, it's like formulating in my mind. So there's something that like I don't think I've shared quite outwardly, is I have celiac disease, which is severe like intolerance for gluten. But on top of that, I have the allergic reaction too. So if I consume or touch gluten, I go into anaphylaxis. So I kind of have both the autoimmune and allergic reaction to it. And so growing up, I was always the black sheep in a way. So like if you go to a birthday party, it's like you're the kid that's not eating. I know allergies is a lot more well known today, but like I'm not gonna tell you my age now, but like back when I was a child, it wasn't. And so I was always this like black sheep, and kids were scared to have me like come to their house because like I'd get sick. Parents were really scared to have me sleep over. Like I was always this like problem child but still being like the best behaved kid, right? So I think what that experience, kind of having this gluten intolerance, was such a bad thing. But then today it's like, oh, it's a fad diet and everyone's gluten free. Right. So it really highlights this concept of being abnormal is the actual normal. And we're really embracing that with OOVA, because I think oftentimes when you feel different, you think it's a negative thing, and it's really not. It's probably a lot more common than you think it is. And so we've been really adamant to let that shine across the platform.
I love that. And I love creating space for us to feel like we are normalized, right? Sometimes that's just what is needed for us to move to the next step instead of feeling blocked or stopped by it. So I love that. Okay. And I love that story. I'm always very curious in the childhood nuggets that influences or shapes like our decisions or moments today. So, well, what's next for OOVA? Always very curious to hear that as well, especially from a growth perspective. And, I would say this year has been ups and downs in terms of headlines and uncertainty for some. Yeah, what's next?
Well, to that comment, if you talk to people about women's health, oftentimes they will chuckle and be like, it's bleak. It's like really dark times, whatever. They're not wrong. Yeah, it's not the best. It's not the most accepting, but I also don't want to live my life that way.
Right.
I am a forever optimist. And I think there's actually a lot of opportunity, because women's health is making headlines. We're in the news. We were on the ballot. Like, when has that happened? Yes. And to me, I think it's actually quite exciting to be leading a company that's part of this change and this movement that's happening, versus sitting on the sidelines and complaining about it. It's like how female founders only get 2% of funding. Like, yes, it's a fact. Now let's change it.
Let's move on.
Right. Let's change that. Like, you're held to a higher bar. Great. Over deliver and let's change the numbers.
Agreed.
It is what it is. It's not fair, but it is what it is.
That's right.
So I like to live my life that way. So when I think about what's next for OOVA, I'm excited about the prospect of what's coming, because I think digital health, it had a boom like 5-7 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago. But now it's kind of like this definition of digital health has really evolved. There isn't this concept of like more data is better. It's more data, but what does this mean? And I'm excited for us to shed that light and really like shine a spotlight on what your data truly means for you on your journey. Not limited to just the two that we're focused on right now, but really scaling across all areas of women's health. We are in talks expanding our offering even further. So I think the next 6 to 12 months are going to be really exciting for the company.
Oh, got it. Okay, great. Well, we're definitely going to keep an eye out on the new products and additional life stages that you're addressing. I can't wait to see what that's going to be about. But I love that. And I agree, the opportunity is here, even in this evolution and new domain of AI, right? There's a lot of us trying to figure out, where is our position in that and to find our footing that is rapidly changing. And on the flip side, there's huge opportunity for female founders in women's health and then adopting technology that we didn't have access to before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for this honest and open conversation. And I'm really excited to get this out there.
Thanks, Destiny. It's great seeing you.